Hello and welcome to the Humble Monthly January 2017 review. I'm Gunlock and I'll be going over each of the games in the bundle to give you an idea of what to expect from them. Project Cars is a treat for fans of realistic racing simulators, but it can be a mixed experience depending on what you're looking to get out of it. On the plus side, it looks stunning and many of the cars feel amazing to drive. The difficulty levels can provide a challenge for even the most experienced of drivers. However, there's a distinct lack of progression. Most of the cars are only barely customizable, and the only thing you gain by winning races is access to more races. Also, if you don't have a driving wheel, you'll have trouble competing on the higher difficulty settings. I was impressed with it more as a technical demo, and I hope the recently announced sequel will address some of these issues. Mother Russia Bleeds is a drug-fueled, hyper-violent brawler reminiscent of Streets of Rage and Hotline Miami. Drugs are used for healing and powering up, and you can generally only obtain them from enemies defeated as you listen to the bleak, synth-wavy soundtrack blaring in the background. Local co-op is supported for up to 4 players, and many of the levels are brutal enough that you'll want to bring a friend along. The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky is an almost seamlessly ported JRPG that stands out in the genre for its in-depth world-building and character progression. In this first episode of a 3-part series, you follow the story of 2 young heroes known as Bracers as they journey across their country, where each town has its own unique issues to deal with and almost every NPC is worth talking to. An average but competent battle system accompanies the rich lore, making it one of the most memorable titles to reach the PC in recent years. Vermintide, this month's frontliner, is an action-filled take on Left 4 Dead's well-known 4-player survival formula set in the Warhammer fantasy universe. It has progression through loot and level difficulty unlocks, and it's worth noting that even the basic gear you start out with can still allow you to be very effective. Often chaotic battles and some of the most satisfying melee to ever grace an online game add up to an excellent experience that can be fleeting for some, as you'll see most of what the game has to offer within the first few hours of playing it. Also, the party bots fare very poorly on higher difficulty levels, so you may occasionally have to deal with long waiting times for parties.
Grimney's belch, their Allen's dead! They were.
Neon Chrome, the crown jewel of Neon Corp. Some people call it a corporate tower of Babylon. 1 million people call it home.
Neon Chrome is an excellent mix of all the elements that make a top-down shooter enjoyable. Set in a Blade Runner-ish future, it has roguelike elements melded in with a permanent progression system that in many ways reminds me of Rogue Legacy. Weapon, perk and ability variety lets you approach levels in several ways, providing all in all a very well-built though familiar package.
Ég Þórara og ég var fædd til að berjast. 9 stormasömum nóttum eftir fæðingu mína nefndi faðir minn mig eftir þrumuguðinum.
Jotun is a beautifully hand-drawn adventure set in Norse mythology. Fierce fights dot many long periods of exploring levels evoking a contemplative state, well in tone with more romantic depiction of this universe. I was very pleasantly surprised by the voice acting, most of which is spoken in a very soothing Icelandic. The main problem I had with the game was that the maps were at times confusing, but many of the levels flowed so well that using them was not necessary, and more exploration-oriented players might in fact embrace this aspect. HoPiKo, this month's debut, is like a platformer on steroids, built from the ground up for speedruns, or at the very least it feels that way due to the way level scoring works. You're tasked with completing increasingly difficult groups of up to 5 levels by jumping onto platforms in order to reach the end of each level. Failing any of the 5 levels in a group means you start the group over, a design decision that leads to memorizing levels almost perfectly and to possible frustration if you're dealing with a tricky challenge that's towards the group's end and you find yourself going through the early levels more than you'd like. Kimmy, this month's humble original, is a light-hearted title about 2 girls spending summer together and playing games with the other children around the neighborhood. The general story progresses as time goes on, and most conversations involve teaching the other participant the game you have with you. While this seems like a title that could be used to introduce young children to games in general, it could also come in handy to adults who'd like to recap the games of their youth. Thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen here and you'd like to see more of it, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. This is Gunlock, signing off.